Good morning, everybody. I'm just gonna make a quick video, do a quick update. Yeah, it's Tuesday, right? It's Tuesday morning. I just want to do a little update, and I have a teaching post I gotta upload. But I want to do this and just upload it this morning. It's early. I got up early today. And just a few little things I want to kind of discuss. Felt like complaining a little bit too. I want to mention the Planned Parenthood shooting that took place, which was the news. Obviously, there was an unstable man. You all saw the pictures. I didn't really cover that at all or really follow it, just I do follow news. I noticed that whenever those things come up, on the Fox News Sunday morning show, they interviewed Carly Fiorina, the lady running on the Republican side. I know Carly Fiorina is sincerely anti-abortion. And some people take that, Trump and others, maybe you're not so sure. I could tell, because the same Fox Sunday host, what's his name, the son of the other guy that used to be famous, Sawyer or whatever, he interviewed her once before, and they got into the Planned Parenthood videos. And let me say something. All of those Planned Parenthood videos that conservative group took, none of those videos were fake. I'm telling you the truth here. And you can let your own political crap skew your mind, and let it. What they did on those videos was they took them over a period of time, and they were long videos. And so when that group, that conservative group, you said, John, didn't that conservative group have an agenda? Sure. Everybody has an agenda. I'm not a right-wing nut, but what we do in this country, and Planned Parenthood is the #1 provider of abortion. And I don't care if people argue about all the other health benefits. The fact that those children are fully formed children in the womb, and they're killed in that manner, is atrocious, and it will never be acceptable. And when they interviewed Carly Fiorina again Sunday, even the Fox News person, whenever the media, I could barely watch NBC News, which I catch every now and then, because whenever the media discusses this issue, specifically about the videos that were taken by the conservative group, they say heavily doctored. They give a view that it's a complete lie, like those videos that were taken somehow were fake, and they were not, because the first day of the congressional hearings on Planned Parenthood that took place a few months back, that's exactly what that woman claimed, like she was outraged. But I remember it was Jason Chaffetz chairing the committee. They looked at all those videos. They had a independent source. The only thing they edited was like bathroom breaks. You wouldn't show 20 minutes of the person leaving, going to the bathroom and all that. So those videos were true. Now, even if they were not true, the act of abortion itself, you can find it, you can look at it, the later term abortions, it's a hideous thing that takes place. And I find it funny. Nobody justifies, as far as I know, the killing of people in Planned Parenthood or any of that. But they're actually saying the blame lies in the fact that what they do is now made known. The blame lies in the fact, this is what that group is saying, and this is what those who support Planned Parenthood say. They say, if it weren't for the reality that the actual hideous acts that we do to children was not made known by some conservative group who caught us on video, then these horrendous murders of people at Planned Parenthood, which nobody justifies that, would not have happened. And in essence, they're simply saying the act of showing what we do is more hideous than the act of what we actually do. That would be like saying the act of showing pictures of Jews in the Holocaust being gassed and killed on such a grand scale. The act of showing it is actually worse than what Hitler did. That's like what that's saying. And so I wanted you to understand that. Forget the videos. Forget the fact of the matter is, and that man, in his rage, said no more baby parts. That's what's reported. And if you simply look at what we're doing in the country, we never knew before that the children, for a fact, were feeling their arms being pulled off their bodies, their various procedures of abortion, crush the skull, suck the brain out. We never knew whether they felt it, but yet in the medical practice today, we actually now began recognizing, because of the way we treat women, that yes, the children are feeling things in the womb. At that same stage where we are performing many of the abortions. And so, that's just one thing I wanted to mention. Nobody justifies what that man did, but the defenders of the Planned Parenthood abortions are saying that conservative group showed to the world what we did. And not even the actual image of what they did, just them discussing it. And they're outraged. And they lie by saying heavily doctored videos. They lie. What was doctored, like I told you, was simply they cut out all those long sections. And I cannot watch. I watch Democracy Now! On these shows. So I wanted to hit on that a little bit. And this is really just an update. Guess I got to do that teaching one. Oh, yesterday. I'm helping Pops. But I went to see Pops the other day. I might see him today. Might go help him. Sometimes I try to. Pops one day wanted me to just go shopping for him, like to go and get his food stamp card. I knew I wasn't going to do something like that because part of my going out and helping, when I'm with people helping them, that's good. But to run errands, and then I know the way Pops would be, because later I wasn't able to do that. He had somebody else do it, and then he complained. He had another friend go and use his food stamp card. And then Pops told me he bought all the expensive stuff he bought. And I understand Pops is older, and people get like that. But I went to see if Pops was, before I knew he was still in the hospital. The picture you saw the other day, he was in the hospital. But anyway, I went to the house, and Pops' roommate, Christine, who's a nice girl, who Pops gave Christine my number once, and every now and then she'll text, and I just don't answer. I just don't answer. That's part of the policy. And I didn't give that number out to Christine. And she's a fine girl. I'm glad that she has seen some of our ministry things. But I told her that day when I went to the house, before I knew Pops was still in the hospital, I said, I'm going to go see Pops today. And so that was that. And then I got a text after I said, look, don't text. It's not. And the text the next day was, did you go see Pops? Because he doesn't remember. So if you ask Pops, did John come see you? And Pops says no, then that would mean you could take it as maybe John didn't go. But the way it was worded was like it required an answer. Like, oh, no, I went and seen her. I didn't answer. And I don't do that. And I told Christine that. I said, I have a lot of friends sometimes that call or text. And if I'm not able to help, I said, I don't even have time to begin the texting thing. And I said, some of them get mad because, I don't text back. And she's like, oh, really? And why do they get mad? And I said, I'm nice, but I'm not naive. And so I wanted to complain a little on that. To say, I might go see Pops today. I think he wanted to get something and to bring it to the hospitals. Because I got the text from Christine, though I didn't respond. And I just want to update a little, did I pray for a lot of the prisoners, the cases, and they stick in my mind. And they stick in my mind because part of the other day I was reading in Numbers, and I told you I do get good things out of the Old Testament books. Oh, I don't want to make this a teaching video. But the Levites, they were, when the children of Israel came into the land, the promised land, the Levites didn't actually have their own inheritance, tribe of Levi, but the other tribes had to give them sort of like a donation unto them. But they were supposed to make cities of refuge for the manslayer. The priestly tribe, the intercessors, they were supposed to have places where the manslayer, the people of convicted of bad crimes, that still in life, there would be a place where they would still be able to have some type of a refuge. Oftentimes it's in prison, but they would have a refuge. And the Levites, the priestly, the intercessors, would have concerned themselves with that. And over the years, I just read that the other day, that God says, no, it's a priestly duty, John, to be concerned about the manslayer or the crimes that committed. Ultimately, the worst is murdering somebody. And so I read that the other day, and I felt God said do it. Many of the names of the prisoners I pray for are the cases where, some of the cases, I didn't see everything, but I know some of the things that happen. I remember many years ago, there was one of the guys, I didn't know him, but he worked for the EMS. Because the guys at the firehouse at the time told me he was like one of the district leaders for the training, the paramedics and the EMTs and all. And though I was an EMT for 25 years, that whole side, I was the firefighting side. In the fire departments in Texas, if you promote early, you promote and become the second rank. In the beginning days, we had 3 ranks: firefighter, driver, or called engineer, and captain. Those were the 3. So many of the guys remained firefighter, EMT, or firefighter, paramedic for many years. And some of them never would promote to the second rank. And when I learned the first few years I was on the fire department, first you had to be there 2 years before you could even test for the next spot. And I realized, oh, I don't want to be doing the ambulance like this. So we'd get up at 2 in the morning and make ambulance transfers from Kingsville all the way to Corpus. That'd be all night long. And that's how that went. And I was very young, I was young in my early 20s, also not there, didn't have a lot of seniority, but I thought the first chance I get to take that test for engineer, I'm going for it. And I got it. And the other guys were upset, because I was very young and just past my 2 years. And there were some guys that have taken that test, they were there for 10, 12, 15 years and didn't get that slot. And the slot didn't open a lot, the position. So some people were upset. They said, no, John is too young. He doesn't have the... But I did it. I was a fine engineer, driver, and, I did that. But that was why, to get out of that ambulance thing. I didn't want to be up all night. I was still up if you had fires or a backup ambulance, but there was a guy here, and the guys told me at the time, this might have been, 12 years ago now. And he got busted for soliciting a minor, online solicitation of a minor. And they said, guys said, oh, he was one of our EMS leaders. Now, I remember the name. His name was Chris Lawrence. I'll tell you why I remember it, because I remember when that happened, I put the names or the articles of everybody. Cops that killed a guy that went out with some guy was cheating on his wife was cheating on him, Adam something. He was at Border Patrol a few years ago, and he caught the wife cheating, and he drove all the way to the other town, pretended he got on his wife's Facebook account, met that other guy and shot him. And so I put those names up, okay? All these cases. But I remember Chris Lawrence because he got sent to prison, which, was just. And then one day in the obituaries I read, he died. Now, they didn't say what happened. And I just knew he hung himself, killed himself. I just knew he killed himself. And so I just prayed, and the article simply said his children attended and his wife did not, the funeral. And I just gleaned from that obviously that was it. There was a lady, Laura Day. I cut her picture out, and it's in that journal right here. So I even took them when I was going to leave and move up north. I took some of these cases with me. Wrote them down. I just saw a prosecutor from North Bergen. When I was up there, I cut his out. His name is Berggren. He was a prosecutor that got into private practice and became a lawyer to defend criminals. He was implicated, Berggren. He was defending criminals, and he kind of got into it, sort of like that Whitey Bulger story. And they were going to do a hit on a witness for one of the cases, and he was a former prosecutor. He got sentenced to life without parole. I cut his story out, and I just read it the other day again, because obviously he was devastated. But Laura Day, another story, and I remember this because I pray for these, even the kid who she murdered. But she was going out with some person here in Corpus Christi. And the person was divorced, and they had their little son named Tyler Schring, I believe, or Taylor Schring, something like that. Tyler, I think. And he was maybe 6 or something. But the husband and wife were divorced. So when the husband had custody, the child was in his custody. Of course, the ex-wife would come over and have some involvement, had to pick up the kid or whatever. And the lady, Laura Day, who was dating the husband, she didn't want that boy. This is what the story was later. She really didn't want that boy in their lives. But she was nice to the boy, deceptively, I guess. So she took him out to this place here, one of these places where they make special drinks. I forget the name of it now, but whenever I pass it, I still lift up that case, even though the boy's dead. Jamba Juice. She took him to Jamba Juice off of SPID and Staples. So I read the whole story. Then she said, we're going to go out swimming to the island where I swim, by Bob Hope Pier and all. And she let that boy drown. She let him drown. And then they finally caught up to her. And they found out, investigated. So she's in prison. I guess she got life. John, do you pray for mercy on? No, I just pray. I also pray for the victims' families and all. And even that little boy who's dead, but yet he's with God. So he's part of the community. These cases that I remember, and I was thinking of some of them just the last few days, and I think, I never justify suicide and say, yes, it's a proper thing to do, it's a good thing. But I talk honestly on this, and I do ask sometimes, if you have hideous serial killers, Ted Bundys or whatever, would it have been a right thing for them to have committed suicide it may be before they did all these serial murders. You have to question. You have to question in those cases. So why would you think of that? Because I think of those that maybe they're sent away. The Chris Lawrence thing, I think, and supposedly when I read his story, it had to do with like maybe the church that he grew up in or something was helping him, a Baptist church. But in the whole scope of things, I think we have some of the philosophers, okay? I'm not teaching philosophy right now, but that is what Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus, they said things like, they came to conclusions, life is a useless passion. And the only question left for philosophy is whether or not suicide is viable. Should we do it? Now, I bring those things up because in the whole real life thing, in these cases, and then sometimes you read that they did kill themselves or hang themselves, I see it as the end result of sin. I see that often as the end result of sin. It says in Romans, the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life. And I see how in some of these scenarios, I think of that lady who killed that boy, drowned that boy, Laura Day. As far as I know, she still denies that, even though she was convicted. And of course, I leave room for the cases like Michael Morton and others who were wrongly convicted, which is tragic. But for the most part, they're not wrong convictions. And I just think, I saw one of the shows, I don't want to go too long, one of the shows I saw were the prison shows, documentaries I watch on TV. And I remember there was a lady who killed her ex. Sort of like a Pamela Smart type case. Had one of the boyfriends kill her ex. And in prison, in this documentary show, she claimed to be a Christian. She claimed, and I always leave that open, maybe she did really accept the Lord in prison. But I could tell she did, because when they interviewed her, she didn't. She admitted it. At this time, she wasn't looking for clemency. And as she talked, she said the reason why she done it. There was a reason why she had somebody kill her ex-husband. But she said, I could tell she was sincere and said, she did a very wrong thing, and she said she took his life, and it was selfish what she did, and she wasn't looking to get out. It wasn't something like that. And so but she in jail is helping the other women. She was an older lady now. So I see that there's also possibly purposes, even in these tragic cases, there are purposes that God could redeem. The Levites were going to make cities of refuge. And those cities of refuge were places where when people murdered somebody else, they could flee to that city because there would be a relative who had the right, called the Avenger of Blood. He could come and pursue you and get you and kill you because you killed his relative. But if you're in that city of refuge, the Avenger of Blood is not allowed to get you until that person stands before the congregation. Not a judge or a prosecutor system. But the congregation would make a decision. They would hear. And if he was guilty, and then he'd have to pay the price. City of Refuge was just that place where you were waiting, quote, until trial. But if you were innocent, if it was accidental, then you could live in that city of refuge and be safe. But if you left it, at any point the Avenger could come get you and kill you, the Avenger of Blood. But then it said when the high priest of the land died, it said then you were free to go back to your inheritance. And the city of refuge is a type and a picture of the church, the people of God. We find refuge in God. And we have that city because Jesus is our high priest. And we live within the refuge. We live within the church. But God has a purpose for us to not spend just our whole life isolated in in the, quote, church or in the protective mode. God wants us to go into the inheritance, so to go out. And it says, when the high priest died, those that were guilty were able to go back to the inheritance, and go back and fulfill what their destiny was. And I see that as a great picture of Christ in the church. So today I just wanted to make a few remarks. I read a couple of Psalms and a chapter in Job every now and then, and it says, I think of these cases because it says, why did you forsake me? Why do I now have no hope? Why am I stuck in this never-ending cycle which causes some of these people to kill themselves? And I even write a little hangman's image on some of these things to remind me, even in my Bible, I put the little image of a guy hanging himself, because those verses remind me of those that are hopeless right at the end. Right at the end. The Chris Lawrences and the others. They're right at the end, and I could see that. So God wants us, He's got a purpose for us. This is not a big teaching video. I didn't want to go this long on that. This is supposed to be an update. It's early, very tired today. The Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make His face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. The Lord lift up His countenance upon thee and give thee peace.